The U.S. Department of Education has given 2 school districts until August 10th to justify its policy of maintaining certain records related to a student's gender identity in a separate filing system away from the eyes of parents, and to explain why enforcement actions should not proceed against those districts. Welcome back to the States. I'm Greg Bishop. The U.S. Department of Education's Student Privacy Policy Office and the Department of Justice allege that 2 school districts, Anne Arundel County Public Schools in Maryland and Ann Arbor Public Schools in Michigan, have withheld information from parents regarding students' gender identity. Joining us to delve into this story is the Center Square Education reporter, Esther Wickham. Esther, thanks for taking time with us. What are these 2 school districts accused of doing exactly?
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for having me. So essentially, the state of Maryland and Michigan school districts have been kind of caught in the middle of this question of, are they valuing parents' rights? And this all happened a few months back when some parents in the state of Maryland received an email about their student, and they used different pronouns. They referred to their daughter as male pronouns, and it kind of sparked a debate on what was happening inside the classroom. And over the past couple of months, the Department of Justice, as well as these parents, after sending a complaint, were requesting the school district to provide clarity on this issue, but they refused to send information about their student because of confidential medical records, saying that they didn't want to violate the law when it comes to information relating to the minor child. And so this raises huge parental rights issue, especially under FERPA, the Federal Education Privacy Act.
Now, Esther, what's the ultimate outcome going to be here? Is it going to be just a slap on the wrist, or what kind of sanctions could be leveled against these districts if they don't at least comply with handing over information?
Yeah, so the Department of Education has given these 2 school districts until August 10th to kind of change the policies when it comes to information relaying to parents, because these are their parents. They have the right to know, and this sets a lot of precedent, because we've seen over the past year many cases, specifically the Marabella v. Bonta case that went to the Supreme Court and asked them, do parents have the right to know, or is this a privacy or confidential question? And the Supreme Court was clear in that case. Parents have the right to know, and school districts can't necessarily withhold information from them. And so we'll see once August 10th comes if these school districts will respond. But seeing as the school districts, when they responded to me, essentially said they found out when the press release was released by the Department of Education. And so they're looking through their policies and seeing if they are going to change it, or they're waiting for more information from the Department of Education.
You did get a statement from the Department of Justice on this story. What did they have to say?
Yeah, so the Assistant Attorney General from the DOJ essentially said that under FERPA, it's not optional. They have the right to know, parents have the right to know, and when it comes to the protection of families and for parents to understand what's happening in the classroom, they need to know, because again, they are their parents. And essentially, when it comes to information based on a minor or a child, especially sensitive information, the school district should be relaying that information to the parents, and that's not something that should be held by the teachers or the school districts. And so they're saying, this is definitely setting a precedent for other school districts. And not only that, Greg, we've seen across the country over the past couple of months many other school districts where the Department of Education and the Trump administration has taken action. And this is one of many cases where they're wanting to uphold parental rights and hold these school districts accountable.
Well, we'll see what happens with that August 10th deadline rapidly approaching for these school districts to provide information and answer the Department of Education and Department of Justice's inquiry about this. And again, you said you reached out to one of the school districts, didn't hear back yet. We'll see if we can get more from them for future updates. Esther, another education story that you've been tracking is with the Trump administration's goal to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. And that was one thing that was a pretty prominent campaign promise, and At the beginning of 2025, a lot of people looking to see what was going to happen there. But tell us about those efforts to shift two divisions within the Department of Education to a couple of different other federal agencies, and what exactly are Democrats upset about?
Yeah, so the Trump administration, in an effort to dismantle the Department of Education, has moved the Office of Civil Rights over to the Department of Justice and the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services over to the Health and Human Services. And this is all in a part to, as the Secretary of Education, Lyndon McMahon, has said time and time again, to kind of cut bureaucracy, cut the red tape, and put states as well as parents back into the driver's seat when it comes to education. Well, many Democrats, especially all the Democrats on the Education Committee, about 86 Democrats, were not happy with this move, and they actually sent a letter to the Secretary of Education demanding that this transfer be reversed. And they essentially cite that this transfer reduces effectiveness because these specific agencies aren't readily equipped with the staff and size to address all of the complaints, especially when it comes to the civil rights complaints.
Yeah, in that letter, what you had, how many Democrats sign this, ultimately saying that moving it to these specialized agencies will lower the impact that these agencies within the Department of Education have. But what did the Department of Education have to say about that criticism?
Yeah, so the Department of Education got back to me. The press secretary, Savannah Newhouse, kind of rejected those criticisms, and she kind of called out these Democrats, saying, they don't really know what this process looks like. It's not a collapse of American education. She highlights that they're just fear-mongering students and American citizens that don't know how this process works. And, they highlight that the Department of Education, even though they're transferring agencies and dismantling the department, their goal is still to protect students, and they're still committed to reinforcing those that have special needs, special education, and those that are disabled within the classroom, and transferring those agencies simply does not change that.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate here, what the Trump administration is looking to do is move the Office of Civil Rights out of the Department of Education and put it into the Department of Justice, which already has an Office for Civil Rights, but they're also wanting to move the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, again, from the Department of Education to the federal agency Health and Human Services. So it seems that it's just a consolidation of some efforts that might be doubled up in various places.
Yeah, and I spoke with Michael Polera. He worked with the Department of Education for over 10 years, 4 different administrations, and he recently moved out to a different organization. But he was a part of this response as well from 60 civil rights organizations that, again, were not happy with that transfer. And they kind of questioned, just as you said, the transferring of the agencies, whether that weaponizes or weakens the infrastructure of the civil rights complaints, because these offices are receiving civil rights complaints all the time. And he kind of questions if the DOJ has the infrastructure to respond as well as fulfill their roles and duties as a Department of Justice. But as I've said before, the Department of Education is ensuring people that they're still protecting students and hoping that this dismantling of the Department of Education gives more opportunity and strength back to the states and kind of cut that bureaucracy as a whole.
Esther, we heard in early 2025 about the process of dismantling the Department of Education. Again, it was a priority and a campaign promise from the Trump administration, but it seems like it's more just kind of, shifting responsibilities from within the agency to other agencies that already handle similar types of things. Are we still going to have the Department of Education by the time the Trump administration 2.0 is out?
The Department of Education definitely won't just go away like a snap of a finger. It will take time. It's been around for decades and decades, and the Center Square previously reported that the trajectory to fully dismantle itself would be 2029. So that would be post-Trump administration. And depending on whoever takes the seat of the president after Trump moves out, could either continue that process or completely reverse it. So it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take some time, but we're definitely seeing some negative responses and some pushback from some Democrats here and now, saying that that's going to kind of weaken education as a whole in the current day and age. So we don't really know what it's going to look like in the future, but as of now, there's definitely some controversy around the dismantling.
And we'll be keeping a close eye on that and touching base with Esther Wickham in the future for the Center Square education reporter. Esther Wickham, thank you so much for taking time with us here on The States.